Hello, I'm Jon Delano, KDKA-TV political editor. Thanks for joining us for Inside Pennsylvania Politics. We're bringing you weekly political discussions in the run-up to Pennsylvania's primary election on April 23rd. We have assembled a panel of young, politically active Pennsylvanians from diverse backgrounds and opinions to gauge what they think of the issues confronting the Commonwealth and the country, and to weigh in on the candidates from local races all the way to the presidential campaign. Elections are about the future, so who better to talk about that than the young? So when we designed this show, I said, let me be the only old guy on the panel, and that's exactly what we're doing. Joining us on our left side of our panel, Michael Smarr, father of two and chair of the Findlay Township Democratic Committee, and Samantha Podner, Communications Director of the College Democrats at the University of Pittsburgh and a sophomore politics and philosophy major. To the right, Aaron Coper, President of the Allegheny County Council of Republican Women and a resident of Pittsburgh's West End. And Dylan Mitchell, President of the College Republicans of the University of Pittsburgh and a law and criminal justice major. I want to start this week with a discussion of the issues. A poll for CNN by SSRS surveyed more than 1,100 Pennsylvanians over the week, ending March 18th. Among other things, the pollsters asked, which of the following issues is most important to them as they decide how to vote for president? Here are the top 5 responses. The economy at 38%, followed by protecting democracy at 23%, immigration at 15%, abortion and reproductive rights at 11%, and climate change at 4%. So how does this track with our panel and what you think of the issues and what you are hearing from your peers? Samantha, let's begin with you. What do you think? Are these issues in line with what you're hearing from Pitt Democrats and other youngsters?
Yeah, of course. You know, young people aren't completely separated from what everybody else thinks. Obviously, we're most affected by the cost of living, by the economy, by job prospects in the future. We're all in school, so we're thinking about the cost of college, our ability to get an education, things like that. But I also saw protecting democracy very high up there, and I will say for the people in my circles and for the Pitt Dems, for a lot of people on college campuses, and I think across the Commonwealth, that is probably the biggest issue that we're worried about because it affects how we deal with the economy. It affects how we make our political decisions.
So you might reverse the two orders there.
I would say that for me personally, and for a lot of people I care about, protecting democracy is at the very top. But I completely understand the concern with the economy. I'm worried about that too.
Sure.
I'm worried about my future and my ability to get a good paying job and own a house. That's like the very backbone of American life.
It sure is. There's no question about that. And Aaron, what do you think? Is the economy the #1 issue from your perspective?
Absolutely, especially at my age right now on this panel. I've been a taxpayer for many years, and but talking to my neighbors, talking to people that are in my age category, we are being hit hard. My friends who have young children, for the average American right now, it's an extra $12,000 a year for the average family to buy groceries, for gas, for those everyday necessities. So I think a lot of people are going to be voting with their pocketbook this election.
Yeah. Mike, you're a family man, the father of a couple kids out there in Findlay Township. What do you think? Is the economy the #1 issue from what you can tell?
Yeah, but I mean, it's such a catch-all topic, right? I mean, saying the economy, we could talk about, what's the housing market like? What the cost of groceries are? What are these things that we really don't understand, but we're just answering a poll like that. So I would say if I were looking at those topics on the poll, then yes, I would probably choose the economy. But, can there be, is that topic expanding into a lot of other things? Yeah. Absolutely.
No, I think you're right. I think the economy can be interpreted in so many different ways. Dylan, at the University of Pittsburgh, another one of our college students here, what do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I talk to, the economy is going to be their top issue, especially among young people, especially the ones looking to graduate soon. They know they're going to be entering the job market. They're worried about how much money they're going to be able to make. They're going to be worried about starting families soon and starting their lives. So they want to know that they're going to be able to afford the basic necessities of life to afford to have kids. Particularly the housing market, mortgages and rent is skyrocketing. And even at the University of Pittsburgh, we see the impact. We've seen so many businesses, small businesses and restaurants that we used to patronize as club members after our meetings close because they say that they can't afford the food inflation or they can't afford the rent inflation.
Well, we all know about the changing nature of Oakland, no question about it. Well, let me ask this on the issue of protecting democracy that's ranked second highest by respondents. When asked which presidential candidate they thought would better handle democracy in the U.S. if elected in November, 45% said Joe Biden, 40% said Donald Trump, and 15% said neither. Erin, let me start with you on this one. I think some people might be surprised that Donald Trump scored as high as he did there because it's the Democrats that talk a lot about protecting democracy. Is this an issue for Republicans too?
Well, I think that is the issue, that the Democrats have kind of owned this term, right? Democracy. But this is not a left or right. This is American. This is part of our Constitution, our institution. So what I don't understand about this is the Senate filibuster, packing the courts, and the Electoral College. So the very institutions that we are supposed to protect, it seems like the Democrats run on these messages of Electoral College, removing the Electoral College, taking out the Senate filibuster. So I'm just confused. And also, I just want to say, you know, trying to keep a former United States president off the ballot and disenfranchising millions of voters across the country, that's not democracy to me. So.
Well, that case, of course, went to the Supreme Court, and Donald Trump is on all the ballots.
That's
or
true,
will
but the attempt is what I felt like we're not living in America right now.
Yeah. What do you think? You raised that whole issue of protecting democracy.
Of course.
Sam?
Yeah, it's the most fundamental issue. You know, it's the reason we have America. It's the most important decision George Washington made, is that he stepped down from the presidency after he was finished with it. And to me, it's the biggest issue because I think that we see that the Republican Party and Donald Trump are flagrantly sort of disobeying the rules of democracy. You know, you can sort of detach yourself from the former president as much as is possible. Some people want to do that more, some people want to do it less, but at the end of the day, he's the one who is denying something. He's denying the peaceful transfer of power. He's basically saying something that's untrue, which is that he won the 2020 election, which is untrue. We've proven that, right? And to me, that's the most dangerous thing because these are the issues that are going to affect how we decide every other issue. And I see it as a pretty blatant violation of our democracy and also a very violent attack, as we saw on January 6th.
Mike, you wanted to chime in on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. Every issue that you brought up, Erin, the Democrats were trying to do that through the democratic process. And on January 6th, we saw that what happens when you don't try to do things through the democratic process, you try to get a mob to go to the Capitol to challenge the election results, which was just, you know, I watched that day in my living room with my child, and I was scared because you just saw an assault on one of the most sacred institutions that we have in this country.
Do you think this is an issue then in the 2024 election?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be an issue going as long as Donald Trump is on the ballot.
Dylan, what do you think? Is this an issue?
I think Alexander Hamilton and James Madison would be rolling over in their graves hearing that we want to use a majoritarian democratic process to get rid of institutions that keep us a constitutional republic. Because that's what we are. We're not a pure democracy. All the founders warred against pure democracy. They don't want 51% cramming down their ideas on the other 49. That's why we have a constitutional republic, and these things like trying to get rid of the Senate filibuster and trying to pack the court, those sorts of ideas, they're directly against the idea of constitutional republic. And really, I keep hearing that Trump has this unique rhetoric about the fact that he lost the election, but I think we have political short-term memory loss. Does nobody remember Al Gore saying that he won I mean, it was before my time, but I study history. Maybe it's not history to you, John.
He won the popular vote, but he lost the electoral college.
Yeah, but Al Gore claiming this whole time that the Supreme Court stole the election from him and that it was rigged against him and all these things. And then you have Stacey Abrams down in Georgia saying she's the rightful governor. You have the Russian collusion investigation trying to delegitimize the Trump election in 2016. I mean, this is rhetoric that we've been going back and forth. We've had this since John Adams and Thomas Jefferson in 1800.
Yeah,
Presidents always want to
fair enough.
delegitimize their opponents.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to move to one other issue. We only have a couple minutes on this. 15% of those surveyed in Pennsylvania said immigration was their top issue. How do you feel about this? Is immigration up here in Pennsylvania, is the border really an issue for Pennsylvanians? Mike, we'll start with you.
I don't necessarily think the border is the issue. I think the workforce is the issue. Here in Pennsylvania, we don't have a robust workforce. I've gone to symposiums from PNC and Huntington Bank that said the biggest problem that the economy in Pittsburgh has is that we do not have enough workers to fill the jobs that we currently have.
Right, and that's why the county executive, for example, has called for more immigration, but presumably legal immigration to the Pittsburgh area. Dylan, what do you think on the immigration issue? Is it a hot political issue among your peers?
It is, yeah. A lot of people, they're very much concerned with immigration. And that's mostly because they're...
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, on what basis? Why?
Yeah, so most of what I hear from people concerned about immigration isn't even so much that they think that they're going to get their jobs taken or anything like that. Right now, especially in the Pittsburgh economy, it seems like we have more jobs than people to work them generally. You see a lot of now hiring signs. So they're not concerned with legal immigration. But so many people in the Pittsburgh area have had their lives touched by heroin. And that's the biggest concern that I hear from people when they talk about immigration, is that with the border wide open the way it is, with the number of millions of people, it really enables the drug and child trafficking industry, and that's what people are most concerned about.
Aaron and Sam, I'm going to give you just 30 seconds.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Sure. If we don't have sovereignty, we don't have a country. So, every former Democratic president has called for secure borders. Biden has, Obama, both Clintons. So all of a sudden we have this invasion. Millions of unvetted illegal people are coming into this country. I am a first generation Irish American. My parents came in the right way. I'm all for immigration, but doing it the right way.
Sam, you get the last word on this one.
I'll say that the people I care about most are really concerned about sort of the anti-immigrant rhetoric that can come from this, especially affecting Hispanic people, Asian people. I'm also part of a family of immigrants, and I'll tell you that we've been personally concerned about words like invasion that are used that really demonize people that I care about and people that are coming into this country legally especially.
Well, thank you all for a great conversation on this. We're going to wrap this up on other issues coming up in just a few moments. So stick with us on Inside Pennsylvania Politics. And raising the retirement age, the recommendation from the Republican Study Committee that represents a large majority of Republican members of Congress, and the change they say needs to happen if we're going to protect Social Security. And we ask our panel how young people feel about paying into Social Security, only to be told they will have to retire later than their parents and grandparents. Welcome back to Inside Pennsylvania Politics. An influential committee within the House Republican Conference is recommending raising the retirement age, meaning future generations would have to be older than 67 to collect their full Social Security benefits. But the change wouldn't affect anyone who's nearing retirement in the next few years. As I found out, the proposal is getting strong pushback. Social Security is in trouble. In less than 10 years, 2033, beneficiaries will take a cut, receiving about 75 to 80% of current monthly benefits.
Social Security needs to be reformed, and the sooner the better.
Everyone agrees on that, but how to reform it is hotly debated. The Republican Study Committee, which represents nearly 80% of House Republicans, including local Congressman Mike Kelly and Guy Reschenthaler, said it was time to raise the retirement age for today's younger workers and to phase out benefits for high-income earners, while insisting, quote, the RSC budget does not cut or delay retirement benefits for any senior in or near retirement, unquote. This brought a sharp rebuttal from Max Richmond, CEO of the National Committee to Preserve Social Security and Medicare.
A raise in the retirement age is a reduction in benefits. As a beneficiary, you're going to receive less money during the time that you are a beneficiary than you would otherwise.
Richmond also opposes denying wealthy retirees what they've earned in taxes, saying Social Security retirement is not a means-tested program.
You are basically changing an earned benefit program into a welfare program.
Is there another approach? Right now, those who earn more than $168,600 are not taxed for Social Security on the earnings above that amount. Many think that cap should be lifted. President Biden, who opposes raising the retirement age and cutting benefits, would lift the cap, but only for those who make over $400,000. Now, coming up, it's younger workers who will have to bear the ramifications of any changes to Social Security. What our panel is thinking about the state of their own retirement decades down the line. Stick with us. Welcome back to Inside Pennsylvania Politics. I'm Jon Delano. Social Security and saving for retirement, two topics that are usually a focus for older voters, but with a recommendation to raise the retirement age for future generations up from 67, younger voters may now be wondering if their representatives are considering their opinions, or if current politicians are thinking that's a problem for future politicians. So let's start with our youngest panel member at 19. Samantha, what do you think? Is Social Security going to be there for you?
Look, I'm realistic about the fact that a lot of strains are being put on Social Security that weren't before. People are living to much older ages than they were before. But I think that the solution here is not to cut benefits for people who are expecting them, but to make sure that the Americans who are making much more than average are paying their fair share.
Yeah, right now there's no taxes for Social Security if you make over $168,000. You want to tax those
My
folks.
belief is that should change.
Right. What, Dylan? I guess the question is, do you want to wait longer to get Social Security? Should we raise the retirement age?
I think realistically, my generation is going to be dealing with the ramifications of it one way or another. It's not, do we want to deal with the ramifications of it? It's, are we going to face the collapse of the system or a slight cut in our benefits? I mean, just raising taxes a little bit isn't going to cut it. This is such a massive program that's going to face insolvency if it doesn't see real reform.
So it sounds like you want both. You would raise the retirement age and you would increase taxes?
Not necessarily. I think I need to hear a real good alternative solution if you don't want to raise the retirement age or lessen those benefits a little bit. And I think you need to tell the younger generation way ahead of time so that they plan for it.
Yes, absolutely key there. Aaron and Mike, you both have been paying into Social Security now, and I'm sure you feel you're entitled to get something when you reach the age of 67.
Yes.
What's your view on this?
Well, actually, I wouldn't be able to get my full benefits, I believe, until 70. I believe.
No, 67 for
Is it
you.
60? Okay.
Yeah,
Just
they haven't changed that part.
Okay. Like
You
Dylan,
get bigger benefits if
that's
you wait until 70.
Correct. I agree with Dylan. I feel that the alternative, raising taxes, who wants that? We're going to bankrupt the Social Security. So, and the other thing, millennials are going to see less Social Security than older generations because there's less funds in the Federal Reserve because there's less U.S. workers inputting to the benefit pool, and I think that's due to the economy.
Mike, what do you think? Would you be prepared to see your Social Security age moved up?
I mean, we've been preparing for this since I was in high school. I remember we had teachers telling us that we had to prepare, that we weren't going to have Social Security, and I think they beat it into the heads of the younger people for some reason. But I do think that the solution is to make people pay their fair share.
You know, I have to tell you a quick story. I was in the Congress when President Reagan and House Speaker Tip O'Neill cut the compromise that increased the Social Security age from 65 to 67. And they did it with like 30 years notice to everybody. And they also at the same time raised taxes. So they cut a deal. They did both. They raised the benefit age and they raised taxes. And that to me seems like the only solution. But we don't have the political will on either side for that. So, hey, thank you for a good discussion on this issue. When we come back, we'll get some final thoughts from our panel. As we come to the end of the show, let me ask a quick answer from each of our panelists. I want to know, where do you get your political news these days? Dylan?
Most people I know, young people, get it from like Instagram or TikTok. I usually go to podcasts, YouTube, and online news sites like the Daily Wire.
How about you, Mike?
Mostly follow local news, like online sites like the Post-Gazette or the Trib or WISA, something like that.
All online.
All online, yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Samantha?
For national news, I'd say the New York Times. For local, the Trib.
Local, the Trib. Gotcha. And how about you, Aaron?
I do a lot online. X, formerly known as Twitter. Of course, KDKA-TV. You're one of my favorite news anchors. But again, just online streaming. If you have a Fire Stick, a streaming, you could go back and watch the news. You don't have to watch it live, which is really nice.
I guess the question is, because when young people get their news, is it filtered, or do you think they're getting the facts? Mike?
Absolutely filtered. It's been filtered for ages, though.
So nothing new out of that?
No, nothing new.
Is there a tendency to watch those kinds or to tune into those kinds of mediums that agree with you?
Yeah.
Or are you willing to look at things that disagree with you?
I like to look at both sides, particularly because I engage in a lot of debates at the university with people who disagree with me, so I like to know where they come from. But I think most people are victims of the algorithm that only show them what they already want to hear.
Yeah. So they don't have a place to go. I mean, there are places to go where you could get a broad range, like KDKA.com.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Sam?
Absolutely. I actually completely agree with Dylan. I think that a lot of people aren't going out of their way enough to get news from different sources, and to even not just go right, left, but to go to the neutral sources in the middle.
Right, exactly. Do you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I think people should use the entire media landscape to find news and to be informed.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you. And again, another great discussion. We thank you for watching this show. You can watch this stream every Thursday and Friday at 11 a.m. until the primary election. And we're airing on KDKA Plus on Sundays at 12:30. Thanks to our panelists, and thanks again to you for watching. If you have a suggestion for the show, send me an email at jdelano@kdk.com. Remember, our government is only as good as you make it. Please vote. Have a great day, everyone.